Welcome back, creeps. Say hello.
Okay, so this is Dulce. We have with us today my cousin, Mari Carmen.
Hi, I'm Mary Carmen.
She's my cousin. I don't know if I said that.
Yeah, you did. Don't
Okay, all right.
worry. So this week we're going to get back to our interviews, which we were supposed to do a long time ago, I guess, but with the whole pandemic and not, being around other people, it's a lot harder. So anyway, Mary Carmen has,
She has gifts.
yeah.
She has gifts and she has stories to tell us.
And
Don't you,
what
Mari
we're all
Carmen?
here for, yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Pressure's
I'm
on.
here for. I don't know if you'd consider them gifts or if they're pros and their cons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things.
Okay, so did you get a chance to think about, like your more impactful stories that have, I guess,
Shifted your perspective or made you think, okay, there's something that I have that other people don't.
Yeah, I actually started thinking a lot about it after we started talking, and I was just talking randomly to my parents, to other people. I was like, oh my gosh, and I started putting pieces together, and I was kind of like, from the beginning, from the first story that had brought up when I started when I was like 6, and I was like, okay, I'm 6, I'm probably not crazy about thinking about or seeing things, and seeing the lady come out of my room. I would see her come out of my room, like out of the closet, and I was just kind of like, okay.
So wait. Tell us about this again.
All right.
Go from the very start.
So
Okay.
you were 6 years old.
So I was 6. Okay, so I had never slept in a room alone. I had just transitioned to sleeping in my own room. And it was filled with Tinkerbell's things. I was just like, I'm living my life. And I was thriving. I was like, oh my gosh, I have my own closet. I have this. The only downside was that I didn't know that something else was in my room. And being the youngest one, obviously no one was going to believe me. And they're going to be like, oh, she's crazy, or she watched something on TV. So I remember what exactly it was. Right when I moved in, it was a summer, so it was like I had no school. I would stay up late. I wouldn't worry about anything like that. And the first encounter that I kind of started feeling uneasy was I had this small twin bed, and I was sleeping, and then I woke up and I saw a hand, and it looked like a hand that was coming under the bed, on the side, and it grabbed like my arm, and I freaked, and I woke up, and I was like, oh, it's a dream. My parents obviously ran across the house and was like, oh, it's probably just a dream. And I was like, okay.
They heard you screaming?
They heard me scream. I legit woke up and I felt the touch, and then I saw the hand disappear.
Ugh.
So I was just like,
wow.
oh, I don't know.
Did it look dead or like a normal hand?
I remember it was nails. I saw red nails.
Oh, that's
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, I saw red nails, and which is interesting is it ties it back to what continued to happen.
Uh-huh.
So that was the first thing that I was kind of just like, something's wrong, or I don't know what that was, and I was worried. But obviously everyone was kind of like, oh, you had a bad dream, or
Right.
what case, or probably it was your own shadow, your imagination. So it was kind of like just a conversation that was over it with.
Yeah.
And then I continued to start thinking about it, and I was 6, and I would be like kind of worried to see something. I would start checking under my bed. I would start checking things. I'm like, oh, the cliche thing of, oh, there's a monster in your bed.
Yeah.
I
mean,
and-
you're 6.
Yeah, I was kind of just like, oh, this is worrying. And then I would, even with conversations my parents would have about it, they would kind of make me leave the room because they knew I'd latch onto it. Like conversations such as like, if it was something scary or anything like that, they made me leave the room. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're being precautious about it. And
Well, like they didn't want to influence,
yeah, they didn't want to
scare you.
scare me or add
Oh.
on to whatever was going on, like if I was just in my head.
Okay.
And I started just sleeping again in my own room. For a while I was kind of like, I don't want to sleep alone, or my mom would sleep with me until I fell asleep.
Yeah, of course.
And then I have 2 closets in my room, which is I had one for clothes and I had one for something else. And in in one of the closets, I started seeing, I would wake up randomly, like I felt like something was looking at me, and I would wake up randomly and I start seeing the closet door open on its own. And right now, those closet doors I have one of them and I took it down, so it's open, so you can see everything inside of it.
Yeah.
And which is weird that I still sleep in that room.
Yeah.
And the door just started opening slowly, and I would just, the reaction, I would get under the covers and it would just be like, And my mom always told me, oh, pray, or just pray or to this, or just it'll go away. And I did, and I would just try to make myself go to sleep. And then one time, I was just kind of like, I can still feel someone was there with me. And I looked, and I saw a lady. I didn't see her face, like, at all, which was kind of weird. But I did see the hands and the red fingernails again.
Was every time when she came out to the closet, out of the closet, and you would hide under the covers and pray, did that work sometimes or all the time, or after a while it stopped working, or what happened?
I would still feel like unsettled by it. I would still feel like, oh, something's here, and I'd start praying, and I kind of just closed my eyes until I went back to sleep. Like until
Oh, you would go back to sleep.
I would go back to sleep,
Okay.
just because I was like, it's in my head or anything. Like I just tried to put the logic behind it, and I was like, maybe if I don't think it's there, it won't be there.
Yeah.
But I still felt scared. That fear that you feel like when something is wrong or something, like that feeling, it was still there.
Wow.
So I would just put myself back to sleep, and I'm like, okay, I'll ignore it. But then that one time, I actually saw her, and I started to scream. Obviously, I was like, what is it? I don't want to. And then I freaked out more because more I was screaming, the closer it got.
What?
And
I just got chills.
the way, and the thing is, I remember it so vaguely. Like sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, I remember exactly, and I remember like, cause I was in the moment, I took it all in, but at the same time I was in shock.
Yeah.
I was like, is this actually like? I see this on a movie, or I'll see this somewhere, but this won't actually be real. And I was screaming. My parents would come. It got really bad up to the point where my parents had to put a baby monitor in my room, like a camera. But a camera and like a little recorder, and they would hear any noises or anything that would come. And I just started sleeping again every night, and then it was a constant thing. It wouldn't happen every night, but it would happen like at least several times a week. And
did your parents ever see her?
My parents never saw her, but they did after I had brought it up and I explained it to them. And the thing is, when I was younger, I couldn't talk about it. And up to this day, I could be in my room right now and I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's like traumatic.
Yeah,
you're 6 years old.
I can't at all. I'm just like, if it's late, don't ask me about it. I'll talk about it tomorrow morning in the daylight, but not at night, right when I'm gonna go to sleep. And I'm just like, no, that's not okay. I have friends that go over and they're like, is she here? I'm like, no, no, there's nothing here. I hope not.
So what does she look like? She has 2 arms.
So she
has nails.
She has 2 arms, and that's the thing with the nails that were red. And she just looked pale, like.
Okay.
But she looked like a regular.
A regular person. The thing is, I never saw her face. Her face was covered in like. It kind of like I saw her, but at the same time, it was kind of like. A presence of. She blended in with other things.
Interesting. Like she was transparent, kind of.
Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, you could still see the details. So she didn't have. I saw her feet. Which I was kind of like, that's gross.
What's up with her feet?
They were she didn't have any shoes on. And I was just like, why does she have shoes on? And I was just like, now that I think about it, because we talked about it, I was really thinking about it. And I tried to remember, and I was like, okay. And I even talked to my mom about things I told her of what she looked like, and she brought up a lot of things.
Wow.
But I never saw her face. That was the one thing. I saw, like, the shape, but I never saw, like, features, like corners.
Like eyes and nose.
But the full face, I never saw it. Which is kind of interesting because I was kind of like, why can't I see?
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a human response, a defense mechanism that's, like when something's happening around you, and because it's so out of the norm, your brain is trying so hard to process it, but it's failing you.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's something like that.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of people probably are frozen whenever, like, say there's a bank robbery going on and they're inside the bank, and they always say, oh, well, if that happens to me, I'm gonna do this and that, but you never really know because that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Do you remember what she was wearing?
I remember the thing is, I was like, oh, I was a kid, I was like, well, she wears jeans or just like that. No, I remember it was kind of like, it was a dress, and it was it wasn't like, it was kind of like the older dresses that, not like probably what you would wear in the 80s, that were kind of like the mid.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was flowy, and I was just kind of like, but I was like, obviously that was not running across my mind, like, oh, what is she wear? What are you wearing? Where'd you get that at? Now I'll be like, hey, where'd you get that at? Where can I purchase that at?
That is fire.
Yeah, that is fire. But yeah, I just remember that, and then what, I would just see her in the beginning. I would just see her, and she would just stand there, and I would kind of just ignore it and just pray, like I said. And then once she started trying to contact me, I actually started hearing her voice, and actually started seeing her physically move towards me, and that's what really freaked me out. And I was just like, no, this is...
And would she like just walk towards you like regular, or would she just get bigger? You know what I mean?
She just got bigger.
Like float towards you. Like,
She just got bigger, and that's even more scary. It's kind of like you're coming at me like...
Very non-human.
Not-
Yeah, I'm just like, this is not okay. And then it feels like time is frozen, and it's just like I was there alone. Like literally, the room felt empty, and it was just like me and that whatever it was in that room. And obviously, my house is not humongous for my parents to take forever to run. And I would be like, I would see her getting bigger, and I'm waiting at the corner of my eye, looking at the door with my parents, because every time my parents would come into the room, she'd be gone.
Yeah.
And that happened a lot, and it feels like you're frozen, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And it's almost like you get anxious because you're just waiting for... I was waiting for my parents to get there, so I'm like, I know when they get here, everything's okay. I feel safe.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So
And what about this baby monitor? At what age was that introduced?
So I was six? I was 6, right? So it was that summer. So it was right when that summer. So as soon as I started seeing or starting acting like I feel unsafe. I don't feel like something's scaring me. And after a certain while, my mom was really concerned. She was like, something's wrong. Like, this is not okay. So the baby monitor was introduced. And after there were so many like encounters, this is where the whole cleansing part comes into play. And the interesting fact that I was actually talking about this with Benji earlier.
Yeah.
Because I've told her I was talking about something else. And Reese's mom, she knows how, she has that same ability, or she knows how to do that. She knows how to read the cards. She doesn't do it anymore, but she did know how, she knows how, but she doesn't like to mess with it anymore. And she was really worried as well, because that was when they were like together, and they were like, oh, and obviously I wasn't a kid that was kind of like afraid of those things or just like that.
Yeah, because you didn't know.
And so that's when the whole cleansing thing, and I remember this because thought about it too. I was like, I got to a point where it was like really bad that I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping at all. Like, I would not sleep in my room.
So sad.
And we actually ended up, she felt like the need to have to help. And I remember us going at like 3 a.m. to Walmart, when Walmart was 24 hours. And I remember because it was just Benji, Vanessa, and me, and she bought...
that's your brother and his girlfriend,
His then girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he, what's it called? We bought like this candle. And this candle was, we still have that candle. Not the same candle, but the same meaning behind it. It's kind of like a guardian angel.
Is it the Saint Michael?
Yeah, it is. It's the same Michael.
I have your back, man.
And we bought a couple of those. I don't know why, but they bought this type of like rock salt, which is interesting, like the thicker one. And then in a pan, like the cooking pans that you make, that's like, and I just remember that she went into the room, and even they bought sage. And they but that wasn't from Walmart. I don't think Walmart sells sage.
Probably not.
No, I think that was from like the day before. They should at this point. If it was 24 hours. And I just remember that she went into the room and she started cleansing it, and she said that I wasn't allowed in the room. I stopped going into the room. It took me a really long time to go back into the room alone, like years after. And she just started cleansing it, and that's when she started saying that she felt something. She felt her like body get heavy, as like if there was something was fighting it, like fighting what she was trying to cleanse the room, and the negative energy, whatever that thing was, for it to leave. And she did say that, and that made me more worried because I was like, I'm not crazy. There's something, I'm seeing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, if an adult is seeing that, then I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And it started with that, and then I completely stopped. All my things stayed in that room. I started sleeping with my parents. I never went back into that room. And I was kind of like, oh, it was an encounter. But...
Oh, yeah, your bed was in their room, wasn't it?
Yeah, my bed...
They had moved.
Oh,
they had
like
put...
moved. It's not like you were just like sleeping in there.
No.
Like you were like, no, I'm not going back in
Yeah.
there.
No, yeah, there was a little twin bed next to their bed. I forgot all about that.
For years, and that was the reason why. And everyone would be like, "Why do you still sleep with?" But they would just be like, "No." Like my parents knew not to bring it up.
Yeah.
And of course, like if they talk to someone, they ask on private, they would tell them.
Yeah. But they're not telling everybody and their grandma.
And I was kind of like, I never went back to the room. If my mom had sent me to go get something from that room, I'd just be like, or go with me, and I'll leave the door open. Like that feeling when something's watching you and you turn off the lights, I still had that feeling, which was horrible because it's kind of like I know something's here, but at the same time I'm like, it's just from the same trauma because I was like, something's gone, but it's the feeling that I'm gonna see it again, and no one's gonna be. And it was such a while until everyone believed me. And another thing that my parents did that kind of surprised me was, and I never found out, which was surprising, was that my dad and my mom, when I started sleeping with them, on those nights, one of them would trade in and out to sleep in my room to see if they ever felt or experienced something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I had never found out. I actually found out like years later, which was surprising. And that's when you find out what your parents lie to you about.
So, like, did they ever hear anything from that baby monitor? Or did they just hear you screaming?
They did. I asked my mom about this the other day. I asked her, did she ever hear anything, or did she ever like, it was something move or anything?
Yeah.
And she just said that right before I started screaming, and while she was sleeping, she had like an urge to wake up. Like something was telling her to wake up.
Yeah.
And in the baby monitor, the thing is now it's different. You can record it and you can actually see it visually.
Yeah.
But back then it was kind of like a walkie-talkie. We hear it, it connects.
Yeah.
And she would say that sometimes she'd hear like whispers.
Whoa.
Just whispers. And I was just kind of like, okay. But she was sleeping, so she never really thought much about it. She was like, oh, it's probably just something, or the TV.
Yeah.
And I used to sleep with my TV on, which made it kind of worse. And they even put like night lights, anything you can think of to help a kid out to go to sleep.
Right.
But even then, I just felt unsafe, and I was just like, no, there's something here.
Yeah.
But the fact that my parents started sleeping in their room one day at a night, like trading in, and I talked to my dad about it. He said that he would be laying there. He'd be laying there and he'd be telling whatever was in the room that they weren't welcomed.
Yeah.
In Spanish, he was like, oh, you're not welcomed. You're hurting people that are here. This is not okay. You don't belong here. You are no, like, just the usual things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they say that if you tend to do that to spirits, it's easier for them to be like, to realize, because they say some spirits don't even know that they're spirits.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that they did that. And my dad said that he did feel things, like he'd feel presence. Someone was there, kind of like if someone was talking with him. But he never visually saw what I was seeing. So which makes me think, I wonder like...
If he got it from his side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I wonder, and the thing is, he has stories of himself that are crazier.
Like what?
I don't know why he told me this story when I was like 8. After
you're having all those issues.
After being traumatized, I guess he thought it was cool. He seemed cool.
Maybe he seemed like, you know what, like, she'll understand.
She already knows this shit.
Yeah.
She's already fucked.
I know. She's already in it. Might as well. No. I know he told me about the story when he was little, and he encountered the devil.
What? Mm-hmm. Okay, you have to fucking tell that story, Monica.
That one gives me chills. That one scares me.
Okay.
So my dad comes from a big family, so it's a bunch of brothers, bunch of sisters, and this is in Mexico. So back in Mexico, he's like, oh, I was going to the movies. He was going to the movies, and back in Mexico, in the movies, he said that there was like, it's super different from now. It's kind of just like a podium and a screen and some chairs. And he's like, He said he went on his own, and back then, like, he didn't live in a good area. It was kind of just like little cottages things, and he had got an elote.
Yeah.
So the, like, corn on the cob, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Mexican corn.
Yeah, Mexican corn. And he was angry. He was walking home after the movie. He said he had watched some scary movie. He said he loves scary movies. Like, to this day, he says, I love this scary movie, Spit on Your Grave. Such a good movie. I'm like, what?
Spit on your grave.
Yeah, it is a good movie. It's a spirit coming back.
Okay, we're gonna have to link that one up.
For revenge. And he's like, it's so good. He's like, find it for me.
Your dad.
My dad.
I would have never guessed your dad.
Oh no, he said he went to the first when the Exorcism movie came out, and he watched it in Mexico.
God.
He was like, that movie. He's like, I'm scared of that movie now.
Yeah.
And then no, but so he was walking home with the corn, and he was eating it, just like he's like, oh, I'm enjoying it, but the corn was cold, and he's like, I got like payback for it because he had started talking shit about it. He was like in Spanish, he's like, oh, this thing is colder than the devil's, like, his behind, I guess. And he said it in Spanish, like, really, like, strong. He's like, oh, like, all angry.
El culo del diablo.
Good job. Good job.
Okay.
Yeah,
Going,
so
buddy.
yeah, so basically he said that, and he said that he was walking out of nowhere, this empty, like, and it's a pavilion, which is like just like almost like an alley, and he saw a black dog right in the middle, and he was just like, like, what, like, out of nowhere, just appeared out of nowhere. He was just like, it just, you know, when you see someone moving around, you can see when someone's coming. Yeah. And then he said, as soon as he made eye contact, he said the dog turned into a man. He said, I just saw the dog literally transform into a man. And he said as soon as he saw that, he knew what it was from stories, from things that he has said, and just a feeling that he got, that he was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
He said he dashed. He left. He started running.
Just gunned it.
The corn was way over there. I don't know.
That corn went
loved
flying.
it.
I know, the corn was, he was like, it's cold trash. He started running. And he just started running back home. He found a different way to go home, that way he was going. And as soon as he went into the house, my grandma was like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's going on? She was like, he's pale. And he's not a pale person. And he was pale, and he told her, I saw this and that. And my grandma was like, you saw this. And then he really kind of let it in sync, and he kind of was like, I did see that. Like, you know, it's kind of like logic. There's a bunch of stories of how you can see the devil or different ways. And he's like, but you know, it could be like a spirit or anything, or something that transforms. He's like, but I know it was that. And because especially I was
You were talking about it.
talking about it, like something negative about it, like kind of like
antagonizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he was like, since then he was just like, never again will I ever do something like that, because I'm tired, like, kind of like angering it or just bringing it up in the situation.
He learned his lesson that day.
Yeah.
And yeah, he told me when I was 8. I was like back then, and I was sitting there like all scared over here, like,
and
thinking.
He tells you this at night, and you're like, all right, good night.
Maybe he was like, look, I know there's a creepy witch lady in the closet, but
I saw them.
I saw this.
So I went up to
2 miles to school every day.
No, literally.
That's crazy.
I know, and I was just like, and now that I think about it, I'm like, are you crazy? I was 8. I was like, what am I learning about this? I should be learning about adding something.
I'm just gonna look for my glass out here real quick. Right, let's go back to this lady in the closet though.
Oh, right.
Before, so like, the red fingernails, like, were they relevant to anything? Like when you were describing her to your parents, were they like, oh, that sounds like Aunt fucking Margaret or something?
Yeah, so I described it to them, but they were never like, they never made a connection. And even if they did, I never heard from it. Like, I never found out if it was connection. Years now, even then, I'll be sitting there, bring it up. I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, how am I not finding this out till now? But there was a connection years later, which is surprisingly, that my dad saw the same thing.
Okay.
So, not adding on, they never saw her when she would come to me. So they cleansed the room. To end the story, they cleansed the room.
Oh, right.
I went back to my parents' room, never walked into that room. I walk into it now because it's my room, but I never that never happened to me. I never got to encounter her again, which is I'm thankful for.
She went away?
She just went away.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's good, and the thing is, adding on to the whole cleansing part, Vanessa was not the only one that cleansed. Another lady that came and cleansed the house, but she cleansed the entire house.
Okay.
Because they had said the room might be clean, but you don't know the
house.
rest of the house. And adding on to that, adding on how, like, the evil eye has a lot to do with spirits and negative energy that can be lingering. They had said, the lady that cleansed it had read my parents' cards and mine, and had said that someone was trying to harm my parents, like kind of just like bashing them or just saying bad things about them or trying to get them to experience bad things. But because my parents are kind of like strong-minded people, they're just kind of like, no, that's not gonna happen. They're hard targets to attack.
Yeah.
And since I was younger, I was the easier target that the whatever that energy was latched onto me. So if they connected it to something, it all went towards me. But it was kind of just like, they had thought it was just that. But then when I started encountering more things, they were kind of like, okay, there's something more to her than just it being
like a one-off.
One-off, yeah.
So what was the connection between the lady that came out the closet?
So the connection, they had said that it was, so before that room was mine, it was my brother, so it was Chino's room. And he had a lot of girlfriends when he was younger, and they're a lot older than me, so they were about the age I am right now, so they had a bunch of girlfriends. And they had said that he had one girlfriend, and that she had passed away in a car accident. And they had made the connection that maybe it was her. Okay. It was kind of just like a maybe, because it was kind of just like, what was the reasoning behind it, and we never found out what it was. But what kind of contradicts it was the fact that my dad saw her years later, and he actually saw her at a cemetery.
What the hell?
I have no idea whose funeral it was. They had gone to a friend's funeral, or I don't know, a family friend, and he kind of kept quiet about it. So we were there, like, at the cemetery during the burial, and then after, he had made the comment to my mom that he had saw something. And he had kept it all day with him, like, he was kind of just like, I saw something. And that night, when he told her, and then I found out, because my mom spoke to me about it, the more older I got, the more open I could talk about things like that, and I wasn't as afraid. And he had said that he saw a lady, like, whilst everyone was around, like, when they were burying, a lady on the far, like, corner, just standing there. And the way he described her was the same that way I described what I saw. Yeah. He said the long red nails, the hands, the no shoes, like, kind of like a flowy dress. Yeah. But he did say he didn't see her face either. Wow. Which is kind of like...
That's so interesting.
I'm just like, and the thing is, I still think about it, I'm like, what's the connection? Yeah. So we had thought it was one thing, and then the fact that he saw her, I'm just like, okay, what is that connection? Why does it keep coming back? Yeah. And it makes you think, okay, adding on to, like, the whole evil eye thing, is it the same person that was trying to harm us? Yeah. Trying to do something again? Or was it them trying to, and this time it was able, one of my parents was able to see it, and it didn't latch on to me. But that was the only encounter. I'm not sure. I think he went to go get cleansed. I'm not sure. But that was the connection. That was the end of the story. I haven't had any encounters with that again, and I hope I don't.
Yeah, Jesus. And so just to explain to our non-Hispanic listeners, what is evil eye?
So,
loosely, like, give us a rough.
Yeah, I had, full transparency. I had to look it up because when you tell someone evil eye, you expect them to know what it is because it's so ingrained in our culture. It's really hard to explain what it is. It's almost like trying to explain to you what an orgasm is. It's like, hey, orgasm, and you're just sort of like, oh, yeah. if you've had one, you know what it is. But if you haven't, then it's hard to explain. But, so, like, in the Mexican community, when if I tell, my friend Manelli or my Carmen, this lady, I think I have ojo, evil eye, she knows what it is, you know? Yeah. So basically what it is a curse that someone gives you by merely just looking at you, giving you giving you a stare. It's giving you a stink eye with intent, with hate behind it. That's where I think that's where the term comes from, giving you the evil eye. Oh, that lady over there is giving you the evil eye. Yeah. But when it really does because I believe everybody has certain gifts, you know, whether they're suppressed or not. And people who can give you an evil eye, whether they know it or not, have an ability to wish harm upon you because just the sight of you infuriates them. Mm-hmm. And there's several reasons, several kinds of maladies that they can give to you, which a curandero, which is a healer, can decipher by giving you a cleansing with an egg. Mm-hmm. When they cleanse you with an egg, depending on how many days you need that cleansing, when they break the egg open in water, they can look at it and tell you what you have on you is hate. Someone hates you. They can tell you how, like, if it's a lot of people that hate you, mm-hmm. or just one. They can tell you if it's jealousy, if there's mm-hmm. a bunch of people that are envious, and again, if it's just one. So basically that's what it is. And there are certain ways you can protect yourself. There's talismans, you know, like the little blue eye bracelets and necklaces, or the red bracelets. For babies in the Mexican culture, what we do is we give red bracelets that have the deer eye mm-hmm. on it. It's like a dried deer eye. It just looks like a little brown marble.
Oh, gross.
Like a wooden marble. And it's attached to it. And you give it to babies because...
they can't protect themselves.
They can't protect themselves. Much like how Mari Carmen, she couldn't protect herself because she was only 6. And some people, like I said, they don't know that they can do that mm-hmm. with their stare, you know? Mm-hmm. And some people don't mean to, mm-hmm. you know? So there's also this thing that we do, like if I'm really looking at a baby and I'm staring at a baby hard because it's so fucking cute, mm-hmm. I don't want to give it evil eye unintentionally and harm it, because evil eye can bring a lot of negative situations to you, like your car breaks down, your boyfriend breaks up with you, or he cheats on you, mm-hmm. or you lose your job, you know, or you mm-hmm. break your leg, you know, like you are exposed, then you are attracting all these things to you because this curse has been put on you. Mm-hmm. So again, back to the baby thing, if I'm staring hard at this baby because it's so cute, one thing that you can do to offset that is to touch them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a thing where you're just like, hey, touch my baby before you go. Like, it's so funny. You're like, why am I...
like a kiss goodbye or something, but it just actually means something slightly different here. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
As in, like, here, if you don't give the child a kiss goodbye, or like just touch them or whatever, it's like, oh no, now something bad is going to happen, or could possibly happen.
Yeah, like I try not to stare at people's babies. I have a staring problem. And if I know the person, then I'll tell them, hey, can I touch your baby, because I've been staring at them and I don't want to give them evil eye.
Yeah, but if it's a stranger, you're not just going to walk up and be like, hey, can I touch your kid?
No, you'd be surprised.
At that point, like, if I'm staring at a stranger's baby, I will make it a point to stop fucking staring, because I know of that. Like, I don't want to unintentionally do that to some kid, you know? But even, like, ladies who have babies, you know, like, in our community, if it's a brand new baby, they know. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, can you touch my baby, just because I don't want him or her to get evil eye.
Yeah, it's like saying, like, some people, like you're saying, a stranger, it's more comfortable to do it someone you know. But if it's a stranger, like, I've had encounters, my mom is just talking to someone and they have a baby and they're like, oh, I like, even just something like their pigtails or anything, like their hair, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna touch her before. And the surprising thing is they're okay with it, because they know. But it's going back to the people who actually do know about it, because if you're someone random, you're like, well, what is that? Why are you gonna touch my baby? That's weird.
Yeah, like non-Mexican folk, they're gonna be like, no, you can't touch my baby. No, away from that freak. I'm gonna call the police.
Baby toucher. I think there's a word for that.
Gross.
Right. So, getting back on track. So you had that experience, and that stopped like within. Like, you were still 6 when everything was cleansed and stuff like that. So then what next? Like, how?
So that actually, like, which is weird, is I was like, okay, this is done. This is the next. It stopped happening. Like, I stopped worrying about it. Like I said, I stopped going to the room again. And that connection with the lady came back years later. We still don't know what it's connected through or who it could be. Because on the contrary, it might be someone that we know, It might not mean harm or something that my parents know or anything.
It could be two separate things.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that I do remember I didn't feel comfortable. I've had other experiences where I'm like, okay, I feel something here, but it's not anything bad.
Okay.
But with that experience, I was like, it's something bad.
Yeah.
And it made it worse because when I had said that she had started talking to me, I remember her saying clearly to come with her. She was like she said in Spanish, which is weird because when I was younger, I didn't know as much. I knew English, but not up to the point where I know now. And she was telling me to come with it. And I saw her getting bigger, extending her hand, almost, which made the connection with why she tried grabbing my hand, almost like if she was trying to take me.
Right.
And that's the only thing I had ever heard from her, and that's the only thing. And I fought back and I said no. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like no, and I was screaming. But that after I got cleansed, it stopped happening. And I never experienced it again. When I started noticing I could see things and sense things was after my uncle's funeral. So my uncle, my mom's brother, passed away like almost 10 years ago. Almost 10 years. Which is odd because my grandmother had passed away like a year or 2 years before. And I had never encountered anything with my grandma, which is super weird.
Okay.
I wasn't as close to my grandma, but she was still around. And the thing is, I encountered something with my uncle. And with my uncle, so we had gone to his funeral, and it was in Laredo. And we were in the guest room at my aunt's house. Not his wife, so it wasn't his house. And I had remembered, and I was really close to me because when I was little, he used to call me Venadita, which means little deer.
Yeah,
because cute. I was super skinny. I was super dark. My legs looked like sticks. So he was like, "Oh, Venadita."
Like Bambi.
Like Bambi, yeah, exactly.
That's cute.
Yeah, he was like, "You probably walk and break your foot." And I remember we had done everything, the funeral, but the thing is, it wasn't the day before the burial, so it was just like the wake. We had gone to the wake. I remember I got him like the big flowers, and I even signed my name, and I was saying like that I loved him from your Venadita, like his little deer. And we had gone home. My dad wasn't with us, but it was just me and my mom, and we were in that guest room. And for some reason, at my aunt's house, it's always hot, like 80 degrees, and she has a lock on it, and only she can mess with it.
On the thermostat?
On the thermostat.
That's so funny.
And it's always hot. I'm like, girl, this is a hot house. So the fans were always on, and my mom would turn on, and she'd be sweating. She'd be like, it's hot. But that night, I woke up, that same night of the wake, the next day before the funeral, like the burial, I woke up, and I saw him in the corner of the room. Full on, and he's someone that you know, like you can see their face and you know their face.
Uncle.
So you've seen all his details.
I saw all his details. The hat he used to always wear. He always wore hats because he had like the little. He didn't have any hair here, but he had hair on the sides. And he had a hat on, and I saw a suitcase. And it was kind of like he had like a little suitcase on the side, and he was kind of says, I was kind of like he was saying goodbye to me, and he was just saying, he had told me in Spanish how that he loved me, that it wasn't his time to go yet, that it was meant to happen like this, and it was not like his fault that he passed away.
Right.
And he had told me to take care of my mom, that I was gonna grow up and really make my parents proud, to take care of my mom and to always remember like to love my parents and stuff. And he was just saying, almost like as if he was saying goodbye, which is weird because I never saw him, like we don't live in the same city, but every time I would see him, I would always talk to him and always be with him. But it really stuck to me. I can bring it up now, and my mom starts crying because it's something like she's kind of like,
that's her brother.
That's her brother.
Yeah, it's not a nice message, like either, really. You know what I mean? It's not my time to go, or whatever.
Yeah,
that's troubling.
Yeah, and it's kind of just like it makes you worry, like what was the reasoning behind it, what actually happened, because we're never gonna know. And there has been things that have happened that you're kind of like, oh, was it this or was it that?
Yeah.
But that was the second time I had encountered something, and I was kind of just like, okay. But like I said, I felt safe. I didn't feel like I did the first time.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, oh. And I had just said it like nothing. I felt comfortable. I told my mom, I was like, oh, I saw my uncle, this and that, in Spanish. And she was like, what do you mean? And I explained to her. The weird part about it was that she had said that same night I had woken up, and she found me in the kitchen.
What?
Yeah,
Like awake?
like awake.
Were you doing that thing where, you know, like that thing that scary kids do where they just stand there?
Yeah.
So you're like sleepwalking?
No, because I remember.
No, like were your eyes open?
My eyes were open.
Oh shit.
My eyes were open, and she said she had on, and then she was like, she had asked me what I was doing. I was like, oh, I'm getting water.
But you were just standing there.
But I was just standing there.
What the fuck?
Weird.
And the thing is, then I questioned it. I was like, was I just dreaming?
Oh, you didn't remember.
I did remember. I was like, I don't remember how I got from the bed to the kitchen.
That's crazy.
But I remembered in the instance that I was in the kitchen getting water. Because I guess in my head, I was like, I'm going to go get water. And so I was like, okay, did I just dream my uncle? Or did he visit me in my dream? Or did I actually see him? And I started really thinking about it. But I was like, no. And I woke up because I remember because I was hot. Like, going back to the house being hot. I woke up and it was hot. And it was super hot that I woke up and I just sat there. And I was just like trying to like, I guess like move around and not be just laying in one place. And that's when I turned and I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know what was the other conversation I had from the time from the bed to the kitchen.
So because you think that he was still with you when you went to the kitchen, and you don't know what was said. That's insane.
And I don't. And the things that I make him think, when you think of someone leaving, you walk him to the door.
Yeah.
And
wow.
the front door of their house is by their kitchen. Literally, like their kitchen's right here and the door's right
Wow, that's crazy. So it's like you were walking your uncle out of the house. That's crazy.
Yeah. And
that's really cool though.
there. Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And what's funny too is that they had those little things we used to have, the little water gallon things.
Oh yeah.
Right next to the door. And that's why I said I wanted water. So that's where I was in the kitchen.
Right. So you were right by the front door.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, now, like, what I question is, what was that? What else did he say, or what else did I bring up in that time span?
Cool.
Yeah.
And my mom just took me back to the room, and the next day I had said it like nothing. I was like, I saw my uncle, like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I even like when they buried him in his casket, I touched it, and like I knew he was okay. Like I knew he had said goodbye to me the right way, and he had told me, like, kind of like relay a message to my mom saying to take care of herself and everything.
Yeah.
So that was the second thing I ever encountered. But the things, like I said, I wasn't scared. I wasn't worried about it as much as the first one.
Yeah,
So
this was just your uncle, like regular.
So what sticks out to me is that he said, I wasn't supposed to go this way. What do you think he meant by that?
He, like, in recent years, he tried contacting, which is my second cousin, his grandson. His grandson was almost like messing with stuff like that, and was able to contact him, I guess, like through the Ouija board and stuff like that.
So your cousin was contacting your uncle who had passed.
Okay. Which is his grandfather.
Okay.
And there was a whole thing with, like, it was like the way he had died, they had ruled it as like a natural death, like cause of death. But then he was taking all these medicine, like for heart attacks, he died in his sleep. But no one really knew, like, according to autopsy, it was that. But there was like kind of like pieces that didn't make sense as to like the timing, like his health, and even just like that supposedly he didn't take his pill, and it didn't make sense. Like none of the things that they were giving the reason as to why didn't make sense. So that's when, but obviously I was younger, so I didn't think much of it. I was just kind of like, okay. But the thing that he had said, it wasn't my time to go, that it wasn't this way. I felt like his death was caused by something else. Not something else, or it could have been like someone else that kind of like going
foul
back.
play.
Foul play.
Right.
Not that someone killed him, but someone had bad intentions.
Yeah.
So I think that now, and it kind of annoys me because I don't know the answer. And it's because I know I was the first one to have heard it, but no one really thought much of it. But now that I bring it up, everyone's kind of like, oh, kind of like they think about it and they're like, was that really what happened? Like, was it truly like what the reasoning behind it was?
So what did your cousin find out when he was trying to contact your...
The same thing. That the thing that when he went to go cleanse by like a curandera, I guess.
Yeah.
as she was cleansing him, my uncle's voice came out of him. Like his raspy voice, like, you know, everyone has their own unique voice.
Yeah.
And his voice came out of him as if he was talking through him.
So your uncle was talking out of your cousin while curandera was cleansing him. So what happened? What did he say?
He was just saying how he was angry. How he was really angry that that the way that he died, that he wasn't supposed to like that it wasn't his fault, and that was not, it wasn't his time to go yet, that he was not ready, that no one was ready. And it was a surprise, like the way he passed away. But like it was just like one day
So
to another.
sudden.
Yeah, and it made you questions. And then that's when I brought it up to them, because I had brought it up to my parents about what had happened to me with his experience. And then when they brought it up to them, they were kind of shocked, because they were like,
There's like the same story.
The same story.
Yeah, the same things are being said.
But I think they have an idea of what it was or who it could have been, but for the same reason that there is like such uncertainty with it, and you're being like, you don't want to mess with things like that, because if someone has the power to do that to someone,
yeah, you don't want to start pointing the finger.
Yeah.
Calling them out.
yeah, because you're just like, what if that is what happened? So I think they just separated. He got cleansed. He stopped messing with all those things. I haven't heard them when we have had conversations. They haven't talked about it. But it was like the connection between both of them. And now, with his experience, he had a bad experience with it, because it was kind of like he wasn't himself when he was contacting my uncle. And with me, it was my uncle. Like it was the person I had known. So now it's like, is it really?
Was it really your uncle?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's why we don't fuck with Ouija boards.
No.
That's like, I feel like we're always saying that.
Yeah.
Should make a shirt.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with Ouija boards.
How old were you then?
I was 8 with the devil story.
Okay.
Around that time frame. Yeah, I was about 8. No, lies. I had just turned. It was a couple years later after my grandma had passed away. I had turned 10. So I was like 11 or 12. So I was a little bit older.
Okay.
So I was a little bit older. But like I said, I didn't think much about it. I was just kind of like, okay. And the thing is, in between that time span, from the first experience to the second, I would feel things. I never saw anything, but I would feel things. Like I'd walk into a house and I'm like, oh, or I'll pass by someone in a store and I would feel uncomfortable. Like if something was around them or something was with them.
Or wrong with them.
Yeah, or wrong with them.
Yeah.
But I never really took it into consideration. I was just kind of like, oh, okay.
You probably thought everybody has this.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
was like, I'm guessing, and I guess because my parents were so open to about it and were actually believed me. So I guess everyone believes in it, or no one's a skeptic and they think the same. Until that second encounter. And I was curious then, because I was just like, is there a way to know when something's bad or when something's like good? And since then I just started thinking about it. I just kept going about my day. And I think the next encounter I had was probably like in high school. In high school I started, so even then I would sense things, or I would see a shadow, or I would see something, and just kind of like in my head I'm like, ignore it, just keep going. If I don't see it, it does not exist. Plus I never felt like it was anything bad. Sometimes I'd be in my room, and keep in mind I actually went back into my room after the encounter, the first one, surprisingly, and sometimes I'm just like, don't talk about it in this room. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And I'd be in my room and I'd hear something fall in the kitchen, and I'd just be like, okay. And it was just like things that just don't make any sense that would fall. Like, just like, how would this thing move completely to the floor and just drop?
Yeah.
I'm like, I get if it's on the side of the logic or like on the side of the thing and it falls. I'm like, or like they say the AC. I'm like, the AC is not strong enough to push a whole box down to the floor.
Yeah.
And so just things like that. And then in high school, I got to see a little girl. I encountered a little girl.
Like at school?
No, not at school.
Oh.
No, not at school. That's
Just to
weird.
make school even worse.
You know, just to make school even worse.
Right,
No.
now it's haunted.
Like, can you help me with this test? No, I'm just kidding.
Where did you see her?
I saw her at my mom's friend's house.
Okay.
It
So
was this house.
I was like, it was this house. And I'm not gonna say her name because just for
Of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, of course.
but her friend actually, she was they're more on the bigger side, so she was kind of like a year. She was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go to Mexico and go get a surgery done. So she got like her lipo or whatever the case was. But in that surgery, it went wrong.
Oh shit.
Like she had a bad reaction to the anesthesia, and she was diagnosed with something. I have the name for it, but I have to look for it. That she ended up losing her ability to walk.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so she's in a wheelchair. It was like something with her nerve system. Like her
Okay.
nerve system just went horrible.
Yeah.
And my mom took care of her. My mom, being her friend, she took care of her when she came back and everything. She lost all the weight because of the surgery and everything, but there were so many complications. And she couldn't even walk, like she couldn't even sit up. Like my mom had to help her and everything. And for a long time, my mom would be going every single day. Like every single day. My mom would drop me off at the bus stop at 6 in the morning, and then I come home at like 2 or 3. My mom would be over there. She'd pick me up, and we'd go back to her house. So for almost like 6 months, I was going to her house every day. But I always told my mom, I was like, something's wrong here. Like something is not okay here. And things my mom never told me about how her friend had told her that when she was alone, that she was scared at her house.
Whoa.
That she felt that someone was walking in the attic. That she would hear footsteps. And she thought she was going crazy. And keep in mind, she lives on her own with her husband. Her husband at work all day. So it would just be her and my mom. If my mom wasn't there, she was alone. And she said she'd feel uneasy, that she couldn't sleep. Like she tried to go to sleep and she couldn't. And I had never found out about this. My mom and her had conversations. And one afternoon I had gone. I was like, I'm gonna go do homework in the patio outside in the backyard. And they have a nice patio, very set up TVs and everything. And I was doing homework on like the bar section, and I turn on those spinny chairs, and I see a little girl.
Do you remember what she looks like?
She had like a red shirt, and then she had like a little like kind of like the dress you wear for school, like the uniform.
Like a uniform dress?
Yeah, almost like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I just remember having like a hair chongo, like a hair tie, like a ponytail, and a bow, the red bow that matched. And I was like, I remember because I was like, oh, it matches. And the little girl just did not say anything. She just stared at me full on, like you're saying, like just full on stared at me. If someone's just staring at you, like you said, like when a kid is like sleepwalking almost, and they just stare at you, she just stared at me, and she kind of looked shocked, almost as like if she didn't know if she was surprised I was seeing her.
Wow.
And I was kind of
Did she say anything?
No, nothing. And I kind of like I was there in that moment. I just looked at her, and I just looked at her in the moment. I like blinked, and she was gone.
That's crazy.
And this time, like, did she look just like a regular, like solid? You weren't. Like,
Yeah, she looked like a
looking through
solid,
her or anything
like
Did
a
you
solid.
feel like threatened?
No, I just felt like confused. I was just like, what? They made no sense. I was like, there's no kids that live around here. There's no logic behind it or anything. And I was kind of confused. I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to run, you know? Like the first one, I was just like, and then when I had told my mom about it, like I kind of just like, oh, and I did get that fear of it because I was like, did I just see that? And anytime I experience something, I get worried that it's gonna be like the first time where I'm like feel threatened by it.
Consistently seeing
Yeah.
it as well, yeah.
And I immediately just grabbed my things, and I remember because I was like rushing to get my things into my backpack and go back inside. And then I had told my mom about it, and my mom had brought it up, like how she asked me as well as what does she look like, and she had said that her friend had made a comment about it, that she had told her that she feels unsettling at her house, and that she hears footsteps and everything. And she had said, she asked me how I felt, like if I felt, and I was like, no, I don't think that was something that was trying to harm, like that's something that's at her house that's not trying to harm her. I feel like kind of like she was letting me know like it was something, she was good. I didn't feel the need, and my mom had said maybe she was like my friend's guardian angel. You know, right now she's having like a hard time, or she's having like protecting her, or a spirit that was protecting her. And it was kind of just like, oh, okay. And she then told me that her friend that had been telling her that she knows that someone did that to her. What had happened to her, like her ending up in a wheelchair and everything, it was someone's fault. That it wasn't because of the surgery. It was because she says she believes that someone did, going back to the evil eye. Because a lady that she knew went to and this is when her husband was like, someone did this to you, this person did this to you, and they know who it was, because this person went to the hospital to go visit her right when she had started having all the complications, and they had told her that she couldn't walk anymore. And this lady just randomly started apologizing and saying how, like, she was like, I'm so sorry, like, in Spanish, of course, it's different in Spanish, but she was saying, I'm so sorry, this was never it was never meant to happen this way, I was supposed to, like, it wasn't supposed to go this far, I'm so sorry, almost like if she was apologizing for her ending up in a...
What the fuck?
And I'm just like, and that lady, I know her, I've experienced things with her, like, she's a curandera, but a lot of the things that she does don't make sense. Like, she works with La Santa Muerte, which is, La Santa Muerte is kind of like, how would you explain that?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I think people who follow Santa Muerte, they believe that she's everything. She's supposed to be the patron saint for the forgotten, the people that are just cast aside, the poor, like the minority, basically. That's the patron saint for them. People, she's gotten a bad name because the cartel use her, or they do things in her name. They ask, but she'll give you what you'll ask as long as you give her what it is that you promised her. So she's not one of those things. She's not, it's a give and take type of situation, much like the Morgan.
Morgan from like pagan practice and stuff like that.
Yeah. So these things, if you work with them, they can be used for good things. That's why she has her different colors. But if you can also use her for bad things, you know, because especially if you believe that there is no such thing as karma, you know, if you think that you are right within yourself, like, no, I'm going to hurt this person because they did this to me, and you believe it, then she will do whatever it is that you want in exchange for something, whatever it is that you promise her. That's why she can be dangerous. But again, it just depends on who petitions her help. Yeah.
So that basically, like, she did that. So she works with that. So it's kind of like, okay. But what's weird is that she was apologizing almost as if it was her fault that she ended up like that. And her husband, my friend's husband, which is my dad's friend, it's a co-worker, he now says he literally made a huge deal about it. He was saying how it was her fault, and it was her fault because he knows it was, and because she messes with those things, and now it makes you think, was there something actually in her house, like that energy that made her end up in a wheelchair? And then what I had seen was like someone trying to protect it, kind of like they were battling in a way, like the energy in that thing. So that was like the other encounter I had with that. The thing is, which is weird, that all the encounters I've had have had something tied in with the evil eye. Yeah, and then I found out recently when I had turned 15 why these things are happening to me, or why I see those things.
So what did you find out?
So I believe that everyone has an aura. So everyone has an aura. Everyone has different colors. Their purpose, or what, like you're saying, their gifts that are suppressed or they're not. So I had an encounter again when I had turned, after my 15, I had a whole quinceañera. It was big and everything. A lot of people went. But that same person we think did something to my uncle was at my 15, because she is family. So it was kind of compromised that we had to invite her, and she showed up. But it's kind of like people that have just negative energy that kind of like, oh.
Yeah, they got a heavy stare.
Yeah, the heavy stare, or even just like, I'm going to say they're haters. Like, they legit hate, even if they mean it or don't mean it. But we know that they mess with it to affect other people, like intentionally harm them.
Yeah.
And during my 15th time, as soon as my 15th happened, my 15th was in June, and 2 months later, I had started feeling that feeling I was with that lady.
Like she was around?
Like she was, not that she was around, but something was around.
Oh, wait, you talking about the lady in the closet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but something was around. And for months, so it was like my sophomore year of high school, and I was back in that room. I actually went back to that room after when I started high school, and it was weird is that my mom had told me, we'll put you in the other room since not this room, but I was like, no, I want that room.
Yeah.
I was like confident that was my room. It was just like a feeling that's my room.
Yeah. Because there's 3 bedrooms. One is your parents. One is the one with your middle sibling lived in, and then it was your room.
Oh yeah, the older one, and then
so once he left, you had the option of being in those 2 rooms.
And I was just kind of like, no, I'll stay with that room, and I guess because there's a bigger window, there was more light in it. I was kind of like, I feel more welcomed in that room, even though the experience I was kind of like
you had gotten over it at this stage.
Yeah. I think now I can talk about it more openly. Still at night I won't, but it's just the idea behind it. And so I had started sleeping there, and then as soon as I started feeling that way, like even in the shower, so we have like glass shower, I'd be showering, I wouldn't be able to close my eyes. I just feel like someone was...
Oh, yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I just feel like someone was in there. And I don't feel like that way. I close my eyes, shower, just mind my business. I'll have music. But even then, I feel like something was just there.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, oh, creep, why are you looking at me shower? And in my room, I tried going to sleep. I'd go to sleep. And it kind of was horrible because it was during school days. And I'd wake up at 5 in the morning, go to school, or 6 in the morning, and was like all
Tired.
Exhausted. Yeah. It's like I tried to go to sleep, and I'd wake up. Like I just immediately wake up because of that feeling. Yeah. And I would call my mom on the phone, and I would tell her, because I feel like if I screamed, I would see or hear something. So I would call her on the phone, and I'd be like, can you come into my room? And I would try to make it like really like normal, kind of like nothing was wrong. Yeah. Because if I felt like if I freaked out,
you'd almost alert it.
Yeah.
And it'd like attack or something.
Yeah. That's so I was just kind of like, and I felt like I was always like
on edge.
On edge. And even when I'd do something, I just feel like on edge. And I'd call her, and she'd come to my room, and I just tell her, it won't let me sleep. Like, it won't let me sleep. I never said he or she. I would say it, or they won't let me sleep.
Can you imagine having kids and then like our kids?
No, I would just get out. You're on your own, or you can have the house.
No, I'd be like, no, you're sleeping with me.
Yeah, no, I'd sleep. I was a sophomore sleeping with my parents in their bed. Remember my bedroom, I didn't have a twin bed no more. I had a bigger bed. Yeah. And I'd be in the middle, like this 15, 16-year-old in the middle of my parents' bed, right there.
With one parent on each side.
I know, and I'd just be like,
But you're tiny, I'm sure it's
fine. I was like, and they were just like, and my mom was really concerned, and she knows, like, I'm very, like, honest with it. Like, I'll tell her straight up, like, oh, this is wrong.
Yeah, she believed you. Like,
that's even more important, is that she believes you.
Yeah, because I think it's worse if you're experiencing it and no one believes you. It's kind of like you're going crazy.
Yes.
And then the less people believe you, the more, I feel like the more you feel that feeling of the fear of it kind of attacking you in a way. Yeah. So it was just, like, the same thing. It started happening every day. I just couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in the middle at 3 in the morning. Every single day at 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning. And even now, I wake up sometimes at 3:33.
That's the witching hour.
At 3:33.
Oh, dude.
Every morning. Like, in the middle of the night.
So then what happened?
And I just started doing it. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm not sleeping. I can't. And out of my own self, I woke up in the middle of the night, like at 1 in the morning. And it happened again where I just felt like I can't sleep. And keep it, I didn't have a dog then. It was just me. And I had told my mom, I was like, can you take me to, like, the cleansing lady? I told her to Juanita. I was like, can you take me to her, go cleanse? And my mom was, like, shocked by it. Because she was kind of like, if she's telling me that she needs it, then there's something going on.
Scared.
Yeah. And I started going. And when I went, she cleansed me and everything. And she was telling me how she came to my house and everything. And like I said, you said it, you had to go like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I did it for a whole week.
Yeah.
For a whole week.
That means it's bad.
For a whole week. And then even then, I had to sleep. She told me a lot of things I had to do. Like, I had to have a water, like a glass vase with water next to my bed. I had to have, my mom has to go buy like cilantro, like something green. I guess just anything green. Put it under my bed, like under my pillow to sleep with it. And she didn't physically read the cards to me, but she read them like in my, like, for me, but I didn't get to, I don't like people reading, like, I don't want to know
she
about.
just like did it on your behalf. Like.
Yeah, on my behalf. And she had told me how she know that the cards I'd read to her that I was gonna overcome it, like whatever was going on, like whatever was trying to contact me, whatever was trying to
Mess with me,
I was going to overcome it with like time, and that I'm always going to experience things because my aura is white. And she says when auras are white, it's like a pure color, and a lot of spirits tend to try and find people who are that color because they're more open and they can connect more to it. And she's like, because you're so open to it, some spirits try and like good ones try and contact you, and you can help them. You can help them understand, or help them, like, even if they're like even if they're stuck here, it's just like someone's seeing or hearing them and they're having a conversation because they're alone.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
You remember when I told you? Like, that people that are open, like, because no one likes being ignored.
Yeah.
And people who, like, say, I'm dead and I'm stuck here and no one can see me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pretty...
Bummed.
You're gonna get pissed off.
I'm going to be
start
pissed off that people keep
throwing
ignoring me. And if I see someone who I can finally have a conversation with, who can finally see me, that's what I'm going to come to.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think spirits you don't have to physically see them to be able to have a conversation or hear them. It's kind of just like signs. Kind of like they do things on purpose. They're not going to obviously put a whole like flower, write down, hey, how are you doing? Or like, hey, text me. But they'll do
They'll knock things over.
Yeah, or like for you to make connections, kind of like, oh, a cup, this, that, or you make the connections.
For you to notice them. And she had just told me that my cards had said that because of that, I was always going to experience things, that I just had to know how to communicate the right way. Yeah.
And really like follow my instinct and my gut.
Yeah. Because
some things that will try to contact me are not always good.
Yes.
And she was just saying how I need to be careful with it. Like, I won't ever mess with the Ouija board or any of that. I feel like I would have...
I mean, you don't need to.
No.
Because, I mean, you are a walking Ouija board.
I'm not going to start talking, hey, but, yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, so sometimes I even have, when I tell friends are freaked out always. They're like, oh my gosh. Some are like, that's so cool. And they're like, I've gone to friends' houses and they're like, do you feel anything here? I'm like, no, I don't. But then the thing is, I never feel anything when I'm around people. Only when I'm alone.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird. So like right now that we're in a room, I won't feel anything. But if I'm alone in the house, I can feel more.
That makes it that's interesting because it's almost like say you're in a room and you have the radio on, you have the TV on, and all that stuff, you know, and that's essentially what you and I are to her right now. Like we're like the noise.
Like.
Exactly. And so once you turn all that stuff off, you'll get to see if there's actually something else in that space with you.
Yeah, kind of like it's saying, kind of like when they say when you're blindfolded, you're like limiting your one of your senses, like you have better hearing now, or just certain
your
things.
Other senses get heightened.
So it makes me think of like people are kind of like the distractions.
Yes.
Or kind of like blocking that.
Or our energies.
Yeah.
Are. Yeah.
So the thing I notice every time I encounter something, I'm always alone. I'm never gonna be like, oh, my friend, and I send something. Yeah. It's always when I'm just alone.
So what's interesting is that you mentioned that you can see the color of auras, and you see that all the time.
No.
You don't see that all the time.
It is only like, I think anyone can see someone's aura. You just have to really like focus on it. Like you have to really visualize that person and their being. but it's kind of like, it's just like, if like, it's just like sensing it, get their energy. Like if I'm in a bad mood and I walk by you, I'm sure you can feel like, even if the way I'm standing, the body language, it's kind of like that.
You just gotta pay attention.
Yeah, it's like the senses thing. You just have to pay attention. But like I'm saying, it's kind of, it only happens when I'm alone. And I'm kind of just like, so when I'm alone, I'm not always like, oh, am I gonna see something or am I gonna hear anything? It's just kind of like, if it happens, it happens. I don't try to provoke it or anything, because I think everything that comes has a reason for it. But then also going on to that thing with like the whole, I wasn't sleeping, so I got cleansed.
Yeah.
And I started sleeping in my room on my own again. I was sleeping alone and everything, and my mom had said she wanted to get a dog for me, because they say dogs are good, like dogs can sense spirits, or they're like protectors. So that's why I got my dog. That's why I have my dog. Yeah. Nowadays, I'll see her laying down now, hear something, and she's dead asleep. I'm like, well, you're no hope. I'm like, well, you're no hope if there's something here. I mean, but I think it's also because it's almost like she knows that I can sense things. Because even when I'll see her, like, I've caught her a couple of times just staring at something. Just plain out staring in the middle of, like, nothing in the night. And I look at it, and I sometimes feel like something's there, but I don't feel like anything's bad. Like, I felt my grandma's presence before, which is my mom's mom. I felt her presence before, but like I say, I don't feel anything bad. And I sometimes when I do feel like something's around, I think it's easier for me now. I say it more. I'm like, okay, just leave me alone. You won't bother me. I won't bother you. If you don't belong here, you're not welcome. But if you're just trying, if you're my grandma, this and that, or like anything that is good, like, just don't bother me. And I stopped feeling like that. I think after I talked about it, it goes away.
Okay.
Yeah, and like the one time something happened in my house at home, the room in my parents' house where I was living in Ireland, we had been to a paranormal fucking event thing, whatever, and something happened in my room that night when I got home, or like 2 days after or something, and I just said straight up out loud, I was like, look, because I thought it was like one of my family members. I was like, I get the joke, but like, that's enough. This is my safe space, you know what I mean? So please don't. And that was it. Like, that's the one and only time ever. So I think like that there is a certain amount of respect maybe that they have for that too, you know what I mean? Like, I know, say, like, touch wood, if I was to die tomorrow, I would be scaring the shit out of my sisters and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's only natural for like family to have that kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, to gravitate towards loved ones.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, so what's the most recent thing that has happened to you?
I think the most recent was probably, now this plays into, if like you're saying, like it passed on from my dad, like his side of family. Risa.
Oh.
Which is my niece. So she's actually my brother's daughter. So she's a lot older. We're pretty close in age, surprisingly, because she's my niece. But so she comes over a lot because she, like, the custody thing, she comes over often. And she has her own room. But she does sometimes, like, freak out about things. Like, she kind of, like, I feel when she's on edge. Like, the feeling how I'm feeling, she feels on edge. And I tell her what's wrong, and she just says, oh, nothing. But she opened up, and I had told her how I encounter things, or I see things as well, or feel them. And she opened up. She was kind of like that. She sometimes feels something at my house, and I was talking to her about it, and I went to sleep. Like, we were just talking in bed, ready to go to sleep, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, if you're feeling safe, like, you can talk to me or anything, and I told her like what the best thing to do, like, kind of talk to her and just kind of not suppress it, but kind of be able to communicate and be like, hey, this is like boundaries, I guess.
Yeah.
And that night I fell asleep and I had a dream, and I remember it was a dream, and I remember seeing my grandma. So I remember seeing my grandma. We have a glass door in the backyard that opens up, and I remember she was standing there, and she was telling me to let her come in. Oh, shit. And in my dream, which I'm here having a nightmare, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's telling me to let her come in. And I'm just kind of like, no. And I was like, why am I saying no? She's my grandma.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I feel that bad energy again.
Oh my.
And I was just like, there's something trying to come in or try to contact me. That's not good.
And it's trying to trick you.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And I was just like, no.
That's interesting.
And I knew it was not my grandma because where my grandma was standing at, so it's concrete, like the backyard, like the little thing, that little section. But I saw like dirt. And in the dirt, I saw like little skeletons, like little bone pieces on the floor.
Fuck.
Around her.
That's
around
detailed.
her. Yeah, and I remember because I got cleansed again, and when I got cleansed, there's this rock. It's like it's in Spanish, it's like roca de fuego, which is a fire rock. I don't know. It's like this crystal rock, and what they do is kind of like the egg. They rub you. It helps you. It's not only just for like the evil, it's also for like cleansing you, for, like of what you've seen, like images that you've seen that kind of like scare you. So that happened in the dream. So to add on to that, it happened in the dream, and I was kind of just like no. And I woke up and I was just like, there's something bad. And I just felt like that sense in my house.
Yeah.
Like I'd be scared to go into my parents' room. I'd be scared to go into the living room. I'd be like, the thing you do where you turn off all the lights and you're running and turn them off and take turns until you get to the place where you have to. That's what I felt. During the daytime alone, or I didn't like being alone. Like if my mom hadn't gone to the store, I would have to like go with her, or I'd just be like, oh, I'm going to work. I'm going to go here. I remember telling my mom about it, and we did that thing. And when we cleansed it, she it came out in the like you put it on a pan and you burn it, and when it burns, it turns into like ashes in a way, like dust. And in the dust, you see the dirt of the skeletons, like the dirt and the skeletons, like the figurines.
So, like, you see, like, in the negative space are bones?
No, like, wherever that rock, whatever they used to rock to clean me, they put it inside the pan. So it melts into something, and then it, like, burns on the, like...
On the pan?
On the pan. And it, after, like, hours, it dries up, and it turns into, like, kind of like...
Like pictures?
Yeah, in a way, and... You have to really look at it. It's kind of like the egg when you crack it open. You see like if it's cooked.
Or like tea leaves or something like
that. Divinate. It's a form of divination.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I saw the skeletons in the dirt. And
like you saw what you saw around her feet.
Around her feet, and I saw like a foot. And it was kind of just like I had told my mom. My mom was like, "What is that?" And I told her about the dream. Like, this is what I saw. And I was like, and there was something trying to talk to me because they kept telling me come in, and the more I said no, the harder.
It was trying to get in.
Yeah. And I would see the glass door shake like as they were coming in. And I was just like, no. But the thing is, what makes me worried is like I was sleeping. So it's kind of like it was in my dream.
Yeah.
So it got in somehow.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it was trying to get in further.
Yeah.
And you probably.
Yeah, it was just asking permission, trying to trick you into letting it into your space.
Yeah, and I was just like, no, even if, maybe just even like the mindset of opening up to it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no. And it made me like emotional about it, because I'm like, they're using my grandma.
Yeah, fucking assholes.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I said, I didn't have a really good connection with my grandma, because she was never around. She was always, she was in a different city, and the last year she had Alzheimer's. So sometimes she didn't remember who I was, sometimes she did. But I know, like, I knew my grandma, and I knew what ways. And then what's crazy about it is that there's a thing when someone's talking, you're like, oh, and you accidentally say someone's name, it's kind of like
they're thinking about you.
That they're thinking about you. So I had a lot of things recently, like with my aunt, which is her daughter as well, my mom's sister. I'll be like, I'll call her, oh, grandma, like abuela. And I'll be like, I'll freak out, stand back, kind of like, and it's like a feeling of relief. Like my grandma letting me know that she's with me, like she's protecting me. Like whatever was trying to do, my grandma is protecting me from whatever that was. And like it wasn't her, that it was something else.
She's letting you know, like, yeah, you got it, like, you got it right, you know what I mean? Basically,
Yeah, because it's kind of like, you know when someone's off or someone's not, like if someone calls you or the word they're texting, you're just like, that's not you. So that was the most recent one. Like, it wasn't like I'm saying it doesn't have to always be like I have to see physically. I think it scares me more when it's more physically, because I feel like they have more power.
Yeah.
But when it's more like that, it's more kind of like I'm blocking it. I'm kind of like no, and I have like a stronger like will to not let it come towards me. But I think that was the most recent one.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the last question before we move on to our story or our topic today, because we're already at like an hour and 40 of that. Have you ever experienced anything here?
Have I ever experienced anything here? I don't think I have. I think when I was younger, I tried to like see if I could feel things in places that I'm more comfortable because I used to always be here. I think the most scary encounter was probably the snoring. Snoring. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, "What was that?" But no,
Somebody's caught an animal.
I don't think I have, and I think if I'm here more often now, I actually focus. I feel like it has to also do with focus. If my mind is somewhere else,
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's why I was like, I thought maybe, you know, if you had like spent a night here when you were younger or something like that, then something maybe.
yeah. And I think because now that I'm older and I'm more aware of it and I focus. If I really sit and focus and I think about it, and I'm just casually just in my own space, I could. It might not be something bad. It might be something good. It just could be something normal, like the whole cat thing you were saying about if you've encountered an animal or anything.
Oh yeah.
But when I was younger, I guess because I was so close off to it, and I wouldn't bring it up to the girls. Like the girls, I wouldn't really talk about it. So I was just kind of like, no. The place I did encounter something was at Carlos's house.
This one right
The
here.
one that they just left. Okay.
When we were younger.
I can see that.
When we were younger.
I can see that.
And it was like for New Year's, or I don't know if it was New Year's or Christmas.
Is it? Wait a minute. Let me ask. Is it that hallway? It is.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it.
I don't know what it is. I like didn't. I'm so glad the house is not there. No, like it's there, but we don't have to go back to it. But it was a hallway, and it's. I don't know if it's the way the house is built or the way that the house is like.
It's a strange layout too.
It's a strange layout. Like it's kind of like. There's so many corners to that house that are kind of just like secluded, and I'm just like that door. Why is it? I don't know. Like it's just kind of like.
Yeah.
There's lots of places for something to hide.
Yeah, and it's like things lurk in the shadows, and I remember like which is weird. I just like literally got the flashback for it, and it was for like Christmas or New Year's, and the kids were all in the room.
That's probably at Christmas because we always spend Christmas.
Yeah, it was probably Christmas, and I just felt weird, like when I would pass their bedroom. And it was their bedroom. I would just feel weird.
Yeah.
Like kind of like a heavy feeling. Like I didn't, even when they had told me, oh, go to the restroom or like just anything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I'll wait for that one. I'll wait for that one. And I also think a lot of it has to do with like, I think also like spirits has to do a lot with like the lighting in a house, the way things are laid out, the colors. Like for instance, at my room, after the first encounter, it used to be a dark purple. That dark purple on my ceiling, like it's kind of like a lilac color, because those Tinkerbells. I was like, oh, pretty purple.
Yeah.
But after that, they were like, you need to change the colors. You need to change the colors like to something brighter, more. And now it's like this bright blue color that's like blue.
Maybe that's why. Like literally, when you walk in, it screams at you.
Yeah.
No, but like, maybe it has something to do with the feng shui.
Yeah.
Like it attracts. Like the way it's built attracts certain things, because that's what they believe in Japan. Is if your house is built a certain way, if it's built incorrectly, then it will draw negative energies to it.
That's crazy.
But yeah.
But if not, like if it has good feng shui, it means that it can allow the passage of different kinds of energy, so that it's always flowing. Things are always flowing,
coming
and there's
in,
nothing stagnant. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've never, if I think about it, no, I really haven't. Which is I'm kind of glad, because I'm like, I don't want to. They're building something.
What the fuck?
But yeah, it was their house, and I remember that because I was just like, now that you think about it, and now that you bring it up, it is kind of like. I mean, the things I would never bring it up, I was kind of just like, no. I was like, let me ignore it. I would just ignore it.
I get it. I understand. All right, so you say you have a story for us?
Yes. Okay, I did these notes a long time ago.
Okay.
This was going to be for episode 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
think.
long time ago.
And then, because we were supposed to stay here, and then a hurricane
yeah.
came along, and so we had to change our reservations.
And it turns out we didn't even have a reservation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good thing this happened.
But I figured I was actually just being lazy, and this was like my backup notes, and then I didn't get a chance to research a new topic. So anyway, this is the Hotel Galvez in Galveston, which is in Texas, like an hour from here. It's where we go when we want to see what the ocean looks like. And again, these notes were done a long time ago, so we're all going to learn together. My sources from this, apparently, were hotelgalvez.com, hotelonline.com, galvestonghost.com, which was actually a very cool website. So, this is directly from the Hotel Galvez website.
Okay.
It was built with $1 million following the devastating 1900s hurricane. Or no, 1900 hurricane that I read that book about. It was like, just wiped the whole fucking island
What
clean,
book was it?
basically. It's called Isaac Storm by
Eric Larson.
Eric Larson, yeah, the same guy who wrote Devil in the White City, which is it's a fucking killer book. All about H.H. Holmes. So anyway, the $1 million back in 1900 was like the equivalent of $30 million
Whoa.
today.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like that's a chunk of change.
Inflation.
It's known as the Queen of the Gulf,
Really?
apparently by
Oh, okay.
someone somewhere. So it opened on June 10th, 1911 at 6 p.m. That's really specific.
Yeah.
So
Did they have reservations on the first day?
I guess. I don't fucking know. I didn't ask. These are just a list of
Sorry.
random facts that I have.
Didn't mean to catch you with
from,
your pants down.
Yeah, 3 months ago. But anyway. So the rooms were $2 a night.
Wow.
Yeah, which I
A
think
deal.
are like $400 a
A
night
deal.
now, right? It worked as a temporary White House for Franklin Roosevelt.
Oh.
Very
No
cool.
shit.
Yeah. It served as a World War II Coast Guard facility.
Okay.
Former celebrity guests include Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. These are so
Those are that's cool.
random fucking
Yeah.
facts that I have. Okay. Headquarters for pageants of pulchritude. What the fuck is that word?
Pulchritude.
Pulchritide.
That doesn't sound like a word. I just-
P-U-L-C-H what?
Beauty. That's what that means.
All right.
Portritude.
Oh.
I guess they looked at the thesaurus.
Yeah.
The
fucking hell.
irresistible pulchritude of her friend. That sounds like it would be chicken.
Yeah, it does. So either way, it was a predecessor for the Miss Universe pageant. So it probably ties in with your friend
Yeah,
that we covered a couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, because beauty pageants weren't a thing in Mexico until I think it was 1910, 1920 in
Yeah.
Mexico. Yeah.
So this is probably where she came for her. What was her name again? Maria.
Yeah,
Teresa?
you're right. She did go to the beauty pageant in Galveston, Texas.
Well, there you go.
Oh.
Boom,
Maria
my stories
Landa.
are tying in together.
Maria Teresa Landa.
She then
or
went
Teresa
and she,
Maria
like,
Landa.
Yeah, she's got an interesting story. Check out episode something.
Yeah.
Room 501 is haunted! Exclamation mark. Also a direct quote from the website. The hotel occupies the site where the Beach Hotel, which burned down in 1898, prompting the build of the Galvez. Beach Hotel, Electric Pavilion, and Pagoda Bathhouse once stood. Sounds
Okay.
like big, huge gay club back in the day.
Yeah.
Not mentioned on the website was the fact that up until the 1950s, it was a notorious illegal gambling hub.
Really?
Yeah, which I'm sure was one of the main reasons for its famous and presidential clientele, and also why it got the other nickname, the Playground of the Southwest.
Nice.
So a quote from GalvestonGhost.com. The Galvez boasts several ghosts, and they can be found in many different areas of the hotel. Haunting guests, spooking staff, and often appearing when you least expect it, the ghosts of the Hotel Galvez are very active. So the Lovelorn Lady. I think this is like the most popular story from there. She's a very active spirit. She hangs out on the 5th floor of the hotel and has been seen, heard, and felt by many guests and staff. The story is that a fiance of a mariner, or like sailor, named Audra would usually stay at the hotel in room 501 anytime her fella was out at sea, which is what I wrote down here. I must have been feeling very 50s that day. So yeah, they'd arrange like he's gonna come back on Thursday, she'll come down on Wednesday and chill out and welcome him back. She would often take the elevator to the 8th floor and climb up the turrets that sit on each corner of the main roof, and she would sit in the turret and watch, waiting for her fiance's ship to return. After a powerful storm, the bride-to-be heard that her man's ship had gone down and there were no survivors. According to legend, she hung herself in room 501, or possibly the west turret. And oh yeah, I remember this story now. A few days after she did that, her fiance boat returned and he was fine. They just got kind of lost at sea or whatever. It took them longer to come back, and he went to the hotel to meet her and learned that she was dead.
Kind of Romeo and Juliet.
Kind of.
A little
Only
bit.
he didn't die.
Yeah.
So room 501 is supposedly the most haunted room in the hotel. The staff say when the lovelorn lady is around, they feel a sudden cold breeze, they hear doors slamming, televisions or lights are turned on and off with no explanation. Front desk attendants have stated that they experience problems when attempting to make electronic keys for room 501, as if something or someone is fucking around with the electronic equipment, specifically for that room. A housekeeper once reported a strange light coming out from under the door, and when she called the front desk and was told that the room was vacant, she opened the door and found no one there and no explanation for the very bright golden light. Odd lights have also been reported in the turrets of the Hotel Galvez. A guest mentioned an odd light up in the turret while renovations were underway, and the turrets were not lit. Bum, bum, bum. So yeah, so that's that one. The next one, there's one very cool picture that I'll show you guys after this. So I have this down as a side quest, apparently. Yeah. So the nun, Sister Catherine.
Oh.
Yeah. So St. Mary's Walmart, or the orphanage of St. Walmart.
Are you for real?
Right. During the storm of September 1900. Now I only know this because I had read this book randomly before ever even started the podcast, but it's like super interesting. There was an orphanage in Galveston, and they had one building for girls and one building for boys, and one building was newer, so they took all the kids while this like storm was going on. And this, by the way, was like still to this day the worst storm that Galveston has ever encountered. So all the nuns had all the kids, and they were all like singing songs and just trying to keep them busy or whatever. And other people were like literally floating by the building at this stage, and they were on the second floor, and they were pulling people in the balconies as they drifted past. That's how high the water was. So eventually the roof blew off, and the nuns were like, fuck, like the other building was completely gone at this stage. They just got washed away. So they got clothesline, and they tied 6 to 8 children each, and then they tied them like to their belt, because they were like, if we need to go out in this, you know, we'll all stay together and be safe. Unfortunately, the boys' dormitory was swept away, like I said, and eventually the girls' dormitory building was literally lifted out of the ground in one solid piece. But when it started moving, the bottom fell out, the roof came down and trapped everyone inside. All these kids, nuns, and random fucking people who had been saved. So 3 boys were the only survivors out of 90 people. Out of 90 children, sorry, that's not including the stragglers. So it was William Murney, Frank Madeira, and Albert Campbell. All 3 ended up together in a tree in the water. Literally, they just clung on for dear life. They floated for more than a day, and were eventually able to make their way into town, where they told the sisters what had happened at the orphanage. I'm not sure what sisters these were. I should have been more clear on that when I was writing the notes. Right, so back to this horrible part of the story. The bodies of several children and one of the sisters were found still tied together on the beach near where the Hotel Galvez is situated today, or possibly on the property. There was different reports. I don't know whether it was just like it's hard to decipher what's like legend and what's actual fact. But as they were found, basically the whole place was littered with dead bodies, but this one in particular, a man was like just search and rescue, trying to clean up and find the bodies, and he found the body of a child, but as he lifted him from the sand, he found a rope and then unearthed
Several more
6
children.
to 8 other children and then a nun. So like that poor bastard.
I hate to be that guy.
Yeah. But either way, it's rumored that the body of the nun and all of these orphans were actually buried on the property where the Hotel Galvez sits.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which makes sense because at the time there was so many bodies that they were literally just burying them as they found them. Because they just didn't know what the fuck to do with them. So anyway, the nuns who looked after this orphanage were from the Congregation of the Sisters of Charity of the Incarnate Word. Okay?
All right.
I'm not sure what any of that means other than charity. But wherever they are to this day, on September 8th, they sing an old French hymn called Queen of the Waves, which apparently I did listen to, and it wasn't quite as spooky as I wanted it to be. I think I was going to play it on here, but I was like, nah, it's just some random hymn. But it just goes to show that the effects of this storm are still acknowledged and remembered 120 years later. So yeah, where the orphanage was, today stands a Walmart. That's a pretty big Walmart. So the employees there have reported misplaced toys, whole pallets of missing toy inventory, and phantom children's laughter and random crying for parents. So yeah, the employees still to this day tell, like, of the Walmart, so Walmart's not like 120 years old, but there are reports of a little girl crying, and she's always just the next aisle over.
That's crazy.
Yeah, to the point where there will be employees standing on either side of an aisle shouting to each other, no, she's over there, like I can hear her. And you're like, no, she's fucking not. She's... Anyway, there's always like multiple people will try and find this little girl, and customers will come to the like customer service or whoever, the security, and be like, oh, I think there's a kid lost in the back crying for their parents. Galveston local news did a story did a story about it even at one point, which I did find at the time, and I looked at a clip, but that's literally all they were saying. It's like, we're here at Walmart, ghosts, basically. First floor bathroom, we're back in the hotel, we're away from the Walmart. A female guest was using the hot tub and pool one night and came through the side door to use the first floor bathroom at around 11 p.m. Once she was inside the bathroom stall, all the lights went out, and at first she thought it was just a friend who followed her in to, like, you know, play a prank on her. And then she heard loud footsteps that sounded like boots, heavy boots walking on the tile, and also followed by loud breathing. Finally, a man's voice audibly says, "Get out."
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
That's scary.
So she did. She ran.
Good.
Yeah, she ran outside and still thinking like, oh shit, maybe this is one of my friends or whatever. She goes outside and they're all like, what the fuck are you talking about? So then they go to the security guard saying like there's some fucking man in the women's bathroom. And they immediately checked the CCTV footage to see if someone had followed her in or like had left since. Nothing. Like all night there was no strange men in the bathroom, nothing like that. So there's children all over the hotel. A little girl in 1900s clothing has been seen literally everywhere, running up and down the hotel playing with a little bouncy ball. In the hotel lobby, on staircases, the gift shop, multiple different floors, people are constantly reporting seeing this little girl. When the spa was being built in the basement in 2008, so that's like really fucking recent. Construction workers complained to the hotel staff because this little girl kept showing up while they were trying to work, and they were saying like, this is dangerous, like, you know, health and safety, we can't have children running around, like, you know, make sure this is locked up. And they're like, but it's a ghost. There's numerous reports of children laughing and playing long after children should be in bed, according to this. The third floor is apparently notorious for ghostly children just making a racket all night long, like running up and down the halls and doing whatever kids do. I don't know, smoking cigarettes and stuff. There's plenty of trickster spirits that actually play with the piano bench in the lobby. They'll knock over drink trays in the music hall, restaurant and bar and, quote, call out to female customers and guests who they identify are mommy.
Aww.
So random women will just hear
Poor things.
kids calling at them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and again, everybody go check out galvestonghost.com because they have plenty of pictures.
Did you say Galveston goats?
Galveston Ghost. Galveston Goats is a totally different website. And you do not want to go there. So I actually went through TripAdvisor reviews for this one.
I love it.
Yeah. So some dude called TrazJ67, whoever you are, shout out to you. This is really a haunted hotel from December 2017.
Mm.
We stayed there last month for a national sales meeting and 7 out of our group had real ghost encounters. One guy even filmed it and captured his dresser drawer opening all by itself.
Whoa.
He said the drawer was open when he came in from the bathroom 3 times and finally he closed it and filmed it slowly opening.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Stay on the 7th or 5th floor, which are the most active. Oh, the concierge will give you one of the electric pulse detectors, which is fun. We are going back to take the haunted tour in a couple of weeks. I think what he actually means is an EMF detector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like full on.
I was like,
Like-
pulse detector, what's that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like imagine like checking in, here's your key, here's your EMF detector.
I think some rooms, some hotels that are like said to be haunted, they have
play on it,
like a whole. I've seen someone have like the same. What was the ship? What is it?
Oh, the Queen Mary.
Queen Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one of them. They give you like a whole. They give you a Ouija board, the little.
Whoa.
like a little kit,
like a whole like haunting kit, and it's like the EMF recorder they have. They're those Dow sticks.
Yeah, yeah.
Those-
yeah.
Dowsing rods.
Dowsing
yeah.
rods. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like,
That is crazy.
Right on.
I mean, I guess that's where people go, right?
yeah.
Right, Kirsty C said, a wonderful historical hotel with many spooky stories from July of this year.
Huh.
Okay. We stayed here for the ghosts, of which we pictured at least 3. That's her whole review, I think. Kirsty C, thank you. Renee W. Would rate higher had I not had the scare of a lifetime. August 2014. My 15-year-old son requested that we stay on the 5th floor, and while I had heard the ghost stories and took them to be accurate, I wasn't concerned, and that was my first mistake. We stayed in 2 rooms on the 5th floor, and I was in room 553 with my mother. I turned out all of the lights a little before midnight after my mom was asleep and I went to bed. I woke up at 4 a.m. and immediately registered that there were lights on in the bathroom. I got up to use the restroom and planned to turn off the lights as I had figured my mother had turned them on at some point in the night. Sidebar. This lady's words. I think she means side note. She had gotten up to use the restroom at 3 a.m. and no lights were on, nor did she turn on any lights. While I was using the restroom, the lights suddenly turned off, and I felt the hairs stand up on my body. This woman must be so hairy. I immediately left the bathroom, I don't know whether she finished or not, and headed back to bed. Once there, I tried to calm myself down and explain the fact that the lights went out logically, like they were on a delayed timer or something.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was finally laying down and my heart rate was getting back to normal, the floor lamp in the corner of the room literally turned on and began to glow. It's on a dimmer and it was barely on, so not too bright. At this point, I literally said out loud, "Game over, you win." And I laid down with earplugs in and a pillow on my head and said prayers for peace. I could never do that. Like what you were saying, like hiding under the covers. No, I would just have to leave.
But that's
See,
I thought
that's different because they're in a hotel, And it's kind of like, where am I gonna go if I'm staying the night here? But I mean, if
To
I'm
the lobby. I don't care.
To
Get the
another
fuck out.
hotel,
Yeah.
oh,
Or drive home.
yeah.
drive 8 hours.
Yeah.
See, that's why
Yeah.
I wouldn't want, like, I want to go to the Galvez just to get in the room, but I would not want to sleep there because I know I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah, but we don't. Anyway, I've never been so happy to see daylight and check out to head home. It's a lovely hotel. The service is good as well as ambience. Okay, but I truly had a paranormal and extremely scary experience. If I ever return, I will absolutely not stay on the 5th floor. However, I doubt I can bring myself to return. At 45 years old, this was my first truly unexplainable haunted experience. Enough said. Okay.
I mean, once you get further down along in age, like in your 70s and 80s, you can't afford to
Yeah,
go on
that could be the
paranormal
end of you.
hunting.
Could you imagine being like 80 and being like, I'm here for you, ghost, and just
Hell no,
Yeah.
because then it's like...
I'm one of you.
I'm almost there.
Is Ron still there?
Hell
Fuck.
no. I'm one scare away from getting...
the end.
Yeah, from the
See
end.
what?
All right. Dan D. Ghostly Experience, June 2014. This really happened this morning. As I was sleeping in room 525 last night, the 9th of June 2014, at the Hotel Galvez, I woke early in the morning, asking myself what time was it and if I needed to get up for this morning's meetings. The room was pitch dark except for a slight stream of light coming through the curtains from the morning sun. I saw that it was only 6 a.m, so I told myself to go back to sleep for a little bit more time. As I was fading off to sleep, I heard several clicks like someone approaching and walking down the left side of the king-size bed, on the side closest to the city view window. Okay, Dan. Along with those clicks, I had the feeling that there was an immense amount of energy in the room and the presence of someone or something. My first thought was that the sound sounded like flip-flops. My arm was stretched out toward that side of the bed, laying across the row of pillows. I froze. Then, I felt this energy bounce onto the bed, crawling towards me, with every depression of the mattress. The pillows gave way to this presence waffling around my arm.
What?
Dan is a writer.
He is
That
a
for
storyteller. Yeah.
All I could think of was to scream, but I couldn't. Next, my arm started shaking, as if electricity was going through it. The left side of my face felt pressure. I think Dan's having a stroke.
That's what I was thinking. I think he's having a heart attack.
Dan, call the ambulance. The left side of my face felt pressure, as if someone was leaning on it. It felt like eternity, but it lasted no more than 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Then it stopped.
That's a
What
heart
the
attack.
hell was that? There's exclamation marks all over this story. No one was in the room. I turned on all the lights and TV. Whatever it was, it had left. I found out from the manager, later this morning, that it was the woman who haunts the 5th floor of the Galvez Hotel. I am now a believer. He now was in all caps. If you want a ghostly encounter, this is the hotel. If you don't stay on the 5th floor or go somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay, so this last one is from May 2019, so pretty recent. It's from Dreamer 5764271785, and it's called I Will Not Return. The hotel had gnats all around, so if you bring food back to your room, you couldn't enjoy it. The hotel is very old. The view was nice, but I will not return. There was also some talk of a ghost, and that's just not my cup of tea. I will stay somewhere else for future trips to Galveston. I was ready to go. Yeah, that's it. All right.
So, did he go there and was like, oh, there's a ghost in my room.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think he's like,
He's like, this is an inconvenience.
yeah, I hate ghosts.
This didn't come in the package.
Yeah. Where does it say here? Ghosts. I am not into it. But yeah, so that's the Hotel Galveston, according to that last person. Okay, so we do have a listener story, technically. It's another Mary Carmen story.
Well, technically, yeah. When you were bringing up the whole thing with the kids messing with the piano, I remembered about the encounter I had with the piano playing itself. And I saw it playing
Nope.
itself.
I would
What do you
run.
mean? Where?
And it was actually at Vanessa's friend's house.
I can't remember that one. Then, damn, that's crazy. It just started playing on its own?
Yeah, so I was with Vanessa and I was with the girls, and we had gone because they had found, and right here at literally this bayou, and they had found his body and everything. And it was like a couple of weeks later, and they were like getting together and just hanging out. And I was with your sister and with the girls because I had stayed the night, and I went to their house because they were doing like dinner just to make it more welcoming and everything for everyone, just to hang out and just try to get their minds distracted. And I remember seeing the cross that they had made for him and everything. It had like the Texans and the Cowboys because he went for both of the teams. And in one of the going in, and it was in this neighborhood that's over here, the Candle or whatever. So we walked in, and there's like a little office, and there's some chairs. So it was like his granddaughter and everything. And keep in mind, I didn't know any of them. Like I knew Vanessa, and like I knew that they were friends. But then we were sitting there, and she was like, the little girl was like, sometimes my grandpa plays on the piano. And her grandpa was the one that they had found passed away. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was just like, and I was little. And keep in mind, this was kind of like when everything had started happening to me, and I started looking more into it and thinking about it more. And I was just like, okay. And she was like, oh, and she's like, I'm like, so you're not scared? She's like, and I was like, I would be scared because, I mean, I was still like, oh. Scared. And I don't know where I turned on. We were sitting on the piano, and I think it's like, okay, logically I can press it and just like mess with it. But I was just looking at it, and then I don't know where I just see like 3 or 4 of them just like go down and play the noise, like the keynote. And I was just kind of like, I'm like, does this piano play by itself? Like like some of that you press and it, and they were like, no, it's been doing that a lot.
Whoa.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay. And the little girl, like, nothing. It was just, like, normal to her and everything. And she was a little bit younger, and we had gone upstairs to her room, like, her playroom, and everyone was in there. We were all sitting there. And she was saying how some of the dolls move at night, and how some of them just move, and how the piano, like, plays sometimes at night by itself. And I was just like, I'm like, you don't get scared? I'm like, does everyone here? She's like, no, it's my grandpa. But I was just like, okay. But right now that
she was pretty confident that it was her granddad, though.
But right now that you brought up the piano thing, I was kind of just like, oh. I was like, it's kind of like, I'm saying it's so normal. I don't even, I forget about most of them. But when, like, it's kind of like you trigger it, you remember this connection to it, you're like, oh, I remember that now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's
crazy
interesting.
Shit.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Creeps. I have lots of editing to do, so we're going to make this goodbye short. Thank you very much, Mary Carmen, for coming on.
What are your handles if you want people to follow you?
Or do you want people to follow you?
Yeah, that's what I said. If they want people to follow her.
I don't even know my own handles. It's @_LLISON and 2 more underscores. Very long. So if you ever have a story or a question, if you experience it yourself, you can DM me and we can have a conversation about it.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look, you're
Good
helping
idea.
people. That's good.
And
I like that.
then we're going to tell everybody on the podcast about that story.
Yes, and then you tell us, and then we tell everyone. We will use aliases.
Yeah. So, all right. I guess it's like Christmas now. I had like a mini panic attack the other night.
Because you thought it was Christmas?
No, because I was like woke up late at night, and I have a gravity blanket, so it's like super heavy, right? It's like a 15-pound blanket, and whatever way I turned, the blanket had like slipped off the bed. But because it's so heavy, it felt like someone was pulling my blanket off my feet, and I woke up freaking the fuck out, and like I was trying to like get it back up on the bed, and it just kept falling. So I was like having visions of someone dragging my blanket. Anyway, I couldn't get back to sleep, and I was like on Instagram, and I saw a post from like the 27th of November, and I was like, but that hasn't happened yet. And then I realized it was actually like the 4th of December.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is my life? So, we'll try and get some like Christmassy stories, hopefully. Hopefully people's personal Christmas story encounters or some shit. I don't fucking know. Like haunted Rudolph stories or something. Find us at Weekly Creep on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you have personal stories or anything like that you want to share, email us at weeklycreep@gmail.com. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Happy fucking Friday.
Thanks for talking to us, Maria Carmen.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was a blast. It was
Thanks for
good.
scaring the shit out of us. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.